Picture this. You're walking down a crowded street and someone collapses on the pavement ahead of you. Your first thought isn't fear, it's relief. Relief that with this many people around, someone else has surely already called for help. So you don't move. Neither does anyone else. And that's the strange part. The more people who witness something terrible, the less likely any single one of them is to act. The real answer for why isn't cowardice. It's something far stranger, wired into how your brain calculates responsibility inside a crowd. You'd think more witnesses means more safety, more eyes, more hands, more chances someone steps in. But your brain doesn't work that way. It works in fractions. When you're the only person who sees an emergency, the responsibility sitting on your shoulders is whole, 100%. But the moment a second person appears beside you, that responsibility splits. Add a third person, and it splits again. By the time you're standing in a crowd of 20, your brain has quietly assigned itself a responsibility of almost nothing. Nobody decided this consciously. Nobody chose to be cold. Your mind simply did the math, and the math told you someone else has it covered. Psychologists call this diffusion of responsibility. In plain terms, it means the weight of an emergency gets divided among everyone present, like a bill split at a dinner table. The more people at the table, the smaller everyone's share feels. The problem is, when that bill is a person's life, a smaller share can mean nobody pays it at all. This idea didn't come from a quiet university lecture hall. It came from a tragedy. In March of 1964, a young woman named Kitty Genovese was attacked outside her apartment building in New York City. Newspaper reports at the time claimed dozens of neighbors heard her cries and did nothing. Later investigations complicated that story, showing the truth was messier, and the original reporting exaggerated how many people actually understood what was happening. But the case still struck a nerve. How could so many people be near a person in danger and not step in? Two psychologists, John Darley and Bib Litani, wanted an answer that didn't rely on newspaper headlines. So in 1968, they built an experiment. Participants sat alone in a room, supposedly having a discussion over an intercom with other people. Partway through, one voice on the intercom would suddenly seem to choke, struggle, and call for help. Here's the twist. Some participants believed they were the only other person listening. Others believed several people were listening along with them. What happened next confirmed something unsettling. When participants believed they were alone with the person in distress, almost all of them rushed to help, and they did it fast. But when participants believed several other people were also listening, far fewer of them moved at all. And the ones who did wait longer to do it. Nothing about the emergency itself had changed, only the number of people who seemed to be sharing it. Why does a crowd make you doubt yourself instead of trusting your own eyes? Part of the answer is something called pluralistic ignorance. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple. When something strange happens, you instinctively glance around to see how everyone else is reacting. If nobody else looks alarmed, you assume you must be misreading the situation. Meanwhile, everyone around you is doing the exact same thing, glancing at you, calming down because you look calm too. A room full of people can convince itself nothing is wrong, each person borrowing false confidence from the blank expression of the person next to them. There's also a quieter fear running underneath all of this, the fear of stepping forward and being wrong, of rushing to help someone who didn't actually need it and feeling foolish in front of a crowd of strangers. Acting alone with nobody watching costs you nothing if you're wrong. Acting in front of 20 people who turn out to be fine is a small, humiliating risk. So you wait, you watch, you hope someone braver moves first. For decades, researchers tested this effect again and again, in different cities, different countries, different kinds of emergencies. And then, in 2011, psychologist Peter Fisher led a major review pulling together data from dozens of these studies spanning nearly 50 years. The review largely confirmed what Darley and Litani had found, but it added something important. In situations that were unmistakably dangerous, fires, assaults, anything where the threat was obvious and the cost of waiting was high, the bystander effect weakened. People were more likely to act, crowd or not, when the danger was impossible to misread. That detail matters. It means the freeze isn't really about cruelty. It's about ambiguity. The less certain you are about what's happening, and the more people you think are also uncertain, the longer everyone hesitates together. Clarity breaks the spell. The moment a situation stops looking confusing and starts looking unmistakably like an emergency, the crowd's silence often shatters, and someone moves. Here's the part that should make you uneasy. You already live inside this effect every single day, and it rarely involves a collapsed stranger on a sidewalk. It shows up in a group chat where everyone read the same concerning message and nobody replied, each person assuming somebody else would check in. It shows up in a comment section under a disturbing video, watched by thousands, reported by almost none, because surely with that many views, someone already flagged it. It shows up at work, in a meeting where everyone privately disagrees with a bad decision, but nobody says so first, because the silence of the room feels like agreement. Notice how none of these moments require physical danger. They just require enough people watching that no single person feels like the one who has to act. Your phone, your group chats, your timelines, they've built crowds far larger than anything Darley and Latani could have tested in a lab. And inside every one of those digital crowds, the same quiet math is running. Thousands of eyes. Nearly zero responsibility per person. A message can go unanswered, a warning can go unheeded, simply because everyone assumed someone else, somewhere in that enormous crowd, was already handling it. So what actually breaks the pattern? Strangely, the answer isn't bravery. It's specificity. Studies on bystander intervention consistently find that when a witness is singled out directly, you, in the red jacket, call an ambulance. The freeze disappears almost instantly. The diffusion collapses the second responsibility has a name attached to it again. The crowd's blur turns back into a single person standing in front of another single person who needs help. And that single person almost always responds. Maybe that's the real lesson hiding underneath this entire phenomenon. You aren't colder than you think. You aren't more selfish than the people around you. You're running an ancient calculation that quietly divides responsibility by the size of the crowd. And most of the time, you don't even feel it happening. But the same instinct that makes a crowd dangerous to a person in need can be turned off the moment you stop watching everyone else's face for permission and decide that, for this one moment, the responsibility is entirely yours. So the next time you're standing in a crowd and something feels wrong, you might not need more people to step in. You might just need to stop waiting for one of them to be you.